Howdy, all. As we did yesterday, since the baseball winter meetings are going on, we're going to start the show with baseball and then go into hockey. Peter, you had something interesting that I didn't think of, but tell us what you were talking
Well,
about.
with the Angels' big signing, right? What happens for fantasy baseball with the pitcher hitter? How is that going to work out for all the guys doing rotisserie league or all the different variations that you have? And I'm not a big baseball guy. I don't play fantasy baseball. I follow the sport a little bit, but it was something I overheard yesterday, and I thought that's kind of an interesting equation.
I'll tell you what I think will happen. When you have a pitcher and he gets a hit, a home run, whatever, you get nothing. You never have gotten anything for any pitchers. Even if your pitcher pinch hits and gets a home run, you get nothing. But I think what they're going to have to do with this guy, at least to start, because we don't know if he's going to last playing the field or whatever, is they're going to have to make two versions of him, one as a pitcher and one as a hitter. And I think that's what they're going to have to do. And this way, when you draft him, you'll be able to put him in as either a DH or an outfielder in the lineup, and then as a pitcher. And you probably, just have to rotate him in. Well, it doesn't matter. Pitching only happens once every 5 days anyhow. So, but that's probably what they'll do, because that's the only way his hitting part will register.
Well, remember when the Wildcat, and even before the Wildcat happened in the NFL, and I know this from playing fantasy football back in the day, guys like Cordell Stewart, who played quarterback but then would split out as a wide receiver. Basically the rule was, if you drafted a guy like that or drafted a player who was, dual positions, you had to declare at the beginning of the season, when you drafted him, is he a wide receiver? Is he a running back? Is he a quarterback? And then you couldn't switch the guy. Now, I can tell you from back in the day, now it's going to be different. The challenge is going to be for people like ESPN and MLB.com who run fantasy leagues, is that they're going to have to split the player. Because normally it's just one player, one profile, this, that.
They'll have to split the player.
They'll have to split the player. Now, back in the day, and I'm sure you'll remember this, Peter, when Gretzky, when you ran fantasy pools, I know that in the one that I was in, it was one bidding for, because we didn't draft, bidding for Gretzky goals and Gretzky assists.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I remember that too. And we would take either one or the other. You split them.
Wow, you draft I wasn't in fantasy hockey, so that's interesting.
And let's all remember, fantasy hockey is the precursor to all fantasy sports, because it's as old as hockey is.
I have to say, it's like,
I don't know about that. I mean, I used to play in an all handwritten fantasy baseball league where I was the commissioner and I was keeping manual stats.
Yep.
And I was doing that in the 90s.
Okay, so we were doing hockey pools in the early 80s is when I can remember. But I mean, Russ, I only came aware of fantasy or baseball when it was called rotisserie. That's when that was late 80s.
We called it rotisserie, and then it became roto, and then it became
roto league and stuff like that. But I know hockey pools have been in Canadian basements for years. Like, I mean, it goes back a long ways.
So to switch gears on this, so the real story has now come out with Giancarlo Stanton and going to the Yankees, because we kept hearing drips and drabs of it yesterday, and I was wondering why Derek Jeter was so defensive when he had a press conference, and he's not even at the winter meetings, which is crazy, because that would be like almost like your GM not showing at the GM meetings. Like he's the one who could facilitate trades, and he's not there. So he's not a GM, but he should be there. And so, but here's the thing. The interesting thing about Jeter is, so they basically were telling him, the Marlins and Jeter were telling Stanton, you better take the Giants or the St. Louis trade, or you're going to be a Marlin forever. And I guess that's why yesterday Stanton said, well, I told him I would stay. So he played their bluff and said, fine, keep me here. And that's when all of a sudden they had no deals left, and it all shrunk up. So that's the reason it got so bristly, and they probably didn't look elsewhere and just dumped them on the Yankees.
Well, the thing was that
sport, by the way.
Right. The thing was that I heard was, and this was a couple days before the trade, that after he rejected San Francisco and St. Louis, that the four teams that made the NL and ALCS were the only four teams he would approve to go to. He wanted to go to a winning situation. Yeah. And the Cubs and the Dodgers and the Astros had no interest. So they were screwed.
But here's what you do as a commissioner. If you're a real commissioner, and right now I think Major League Baseball has a corporate commissioner. I do. And if you're a real commissioner, because they have a lot more power than the commissioners have really done since Selig, and really Selig stopped doing it well into his lengthy term there as well. All he has to do is say, hey, guys, I'm not putting this trade through until I feel there's better value here. And New York Yankees, if you want to acquire him, you have to give up one of your top 5 prospects and this and that. There should be sort of an outline that the commissioner should have sent to them. That's the minimum requirement, because the Yankees gave up even less than what I think is minimum requirement.
And the Yankees would have said to that commissioner, "Go screw yourself." Because
I
honestly,
don't know about
that. I fully believe that. And Russ, the thing is that objective commissioner, that Landis was, that Bowie Kuhn was, that maybe even Peter Ueberroth was.
Was too, I think. Yeah.
It died with Bud Selig. It died because I'm pretty sure they changed the parameters of the commissioner while Selig was in there, because they had a former owner in there, and they don't want like Roger Goodell running roughshod over the owners. Major League Baseball wants to control the commissioner. That was the problem back when they initiated the commissioner position. That Landis he got overturned as a judge, as a federal judge, and the reason he took the commissioner's job is because he had absolute control.
Yeah. And wasn't there a point when, and maybe it still does, but because I'm not super close to baseball, but didn't the American League and National League each have their own separate commissioners at one point?
They had presidents.
They had presidents. They did away with that too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, Bill White was a president of the.
But here's the basic. Yeah. Here's the part where if you're a Marlins fan, and by the way, the Yankees vice president of communications yesterday called them the Florida Marlins because they were so used to fleecing the Florida Marlins that they were just like, Florida. Oh, I mean Miami. Like it was like, oh yeah.
Can I have $1 for every time I've called them the Phoenix Coyotes, or somebody has called?
This is like you're coming up to the podium. This is the one thing you have to say, and it's written down for you.
Yeah, but it's a minor league organization, so what do you expect?
No, but that's the thing. This is where the Marlins lie in people's psyche. That's the problem. So they get Castro. He's got 1 more year on his deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then he's going to walk away. And if they don't even get 1 or 2 good prospects out of this, they will have gotten like nothing for a 59 home run hitter other than financial stability, which again, even Stanton, when he talked about it yesterday, was tired of hearing about it. He was tired of hearing, because he said for the last 3 to 5 years, every year in spring training, it's a different plan. It's a different manager. He said he actually went to Jeter and said, look, I think our lineup's good. This is what I think we should do with the pitching. And they were like, no. We don't want you. We're going in a different direction. And that's like, you feel bad for a player when they're trying to win.
And the problem is, and this goes along all sports, and after this we'll get started, is that Major League Baseball should have never approved the ownership switch from Loria to this group. If the first move, they had to know the first move was going to be, let's gut this team of like $200 and something million with Stanton, and I think it's over like $60 million in D Gordon. And they're not done. They're going to trade Yelich. They're going to trade a couple other people.
Yeah, they're all going to go.
They're going to gut this team. Okay, so I understand, like there is a model there of teams like Kansas City and a few others where, they gut the or even Houston. I mean, Houston 5 or 6 years ago, they were completely gutted. They built with youngsters, and then
how long it's going to take? It's going to take
10 years. It's going to
take a decade, and the Marlins are going to live off the luxury tax and revenue sharing. That's what they're going to do. That's great. That's bad for the sport. Anyhow.
Yeah. Anyway. All right, let's get started. X said he'll be here in a second. Hello, Hockey World. Today is Tuesday, December 12th, 2017.
I'm Peter Tessier from Winnipeg.
I'm Russ Cohen from New Jersey.
I'm Michael Ogello from snowy Buffalo, and this is the HockeyBuzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. We actually got some snow, Peter. We're catching up to Winnipeg.
You guys didn't just get snow. I mean, you got thunder snow.
You did, yeah.
Well,
that was wild to watch.
We were talking to Kevin Allen yesterday, and Kevin's going to be here for the Team USA, Team Canada outdoor game on the 29th of December. And honestly, I want to see something close, and not as bad as that, because then I think the game will be unplayable. I'm pretty sure, Russ, they have a fallback, like to play that game at the KeyBank Arena, KeyBank Center the next day if the game gets snowed out. And that was the first bad snow that we've had. Yeah, but it happened just on a Sunday, just in time for a Bills game. And if it's that bad on that day, they'll cancel it right away because they won't be able to handle that snow with the ice.
I mean, they won't be able to. And you're right, they will. I mean, but I get why they're giving it a shot. It'd be fun if they can do it. What I am against for that is, even though it's an early game, it still counts in the tournament, and that's tough because in an NHL season, you're talking about one game out of 82, that's fine. When you're talking about a tournament that you don't get that many losses, playing outside can severely hamper a team. You don't have a good game in that one, you blow another one, and all of a sudden you find yourself in the worst possible seeding or out.
And I'll be curious to see what the ticket sales are like. I know that they've been trying to sell tickets on billboards and things of that nature since October. Peter, it's a 70,000 seat arena, and I wouldn't be shocked if they close the upper bowl and it's just lower bowl, and that's the case. It'll probably be around 40. But I don't know. I'm not 100%.
Mike, do you think the peanut guy will? Oh, never mind.
But what happens though if they do have to cancel it, and all of a sudden you got to move it into KeyBank?
Yeah.
And now you've sold 30,000 tickets, but you only hold 20,000.
They'll probably have a sale day of, because they won't be able to reassign. I mean, if you sell 70,000 tickets, they'll have to or whatever, how many thousand tickets, they'll have to reimburse.
Right. There's all the sponsors. There's all the people who are prepaid and
they'll do what they can to play that game. But if it's a massive storm like that, they're not going to be able to play.
Right.
Yeah. Hey, it seems. I agree with you, Russ. It seems really risky considering the magnitude of what those games can mean. It's a tournament. I mean, it would seem if you're going to do one, do the final. Like, make it the final game.
No, don't make it. I get what you're saying because it is final, but I don't want it to be a fluky final. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But I get what
I
you're
know.
thinking.
It's a great idea. It's probably not. It's a great idea for spectators and fun and the experience of it all. It's just not a great idea from the fundamentals of how you should run a tournament.
You know what it would be better for? A relegation game.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Hey
guys. How you doing? Good. Thanks. Sorry I'm late.
That's all right.
You guys continue for 1 second. I'm just getting my stuff up.
Yeah, because if you make it a relegation game, it makes it a little more exciting because you already know neither team is really playing for a lot.
But okay, the point here is that the whole focus of this is to make money. It's U.S. versus Canada in Buffalo, and they purposely didn't have this game on New Year's Eve because you wouldn't get people to come over at, say, 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock on New Year's Eve, especially if it's a potential of having bad weather and then being able to get home in time for New Year's Eve celebrations. So they did it on the 29th. But the whole purpose of this is to make money. Yeah. They want to sell as many tickets as possible. And then if the worst case scenario happens, then you play the game. You have to play the game. You play it inside. But still, I think it's the spectacle of having somewhere close to 40,000 or 50,000 people or whatever there, and probably mostly Canadians to see. To see Team Canada versus Team USA, a rematch of the final from last year. So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I liked when this game was on New Year's Eve a lot. I mean, I did. I think that was. I mean, I understand you can't put it on New Year's Eve and maybe in the big stadium, but I did I have a lot of good memories watching this game on New Year's Eve. This is a really
because New Year's Eve in Buffalo is such a hot time. You don't want to take away from all the possibilities.
There we go.
Listen, I spent New Year's Eve in Buffalo, and it was okay. But I got to tell you, we had a totally different opinion on New Year's Eve in Buffalo compared to Marty Baron when we were talking to Marty about it. Because before we went, Marty's like, "Oh, New Year's Eve in Buffalo is great." After we came back, Marty was like, "Where'd you go? You missed all the fun." And we're like, "Marty, where was all the fun? We at least were in a hotel that was lively, but still, and a restaurant that
and it can't top last year's New Year's Eve because Russ and I were at a Buffalo Wild Wings in Etobicoke, Ontario, to getting ready to watch the Centennial Classic, and we watched Team USA versus Team Canada and ate about 20 wings at Buffalo Wild Wings.
Prog rock all night.
Yes, and they played a lot of ELO on the.
That's pretty hard to beat. My favorite was definitely the Boston Winter Classic, and the bar where everybody
knows your name.
What was that?
Where everybody knows your name.
Yeah, right. There was a bar. It was a bar where all the Canadian and all the NHL media ended up because it was connected to our hotel, and it was a real fun, like, rooting interest type situation where you had, the Canadian media rooting for Canada and the U.S. media rooting for the U.S. and that in the World Junior game. That was one of the better games too. But yeah, it was just amazing.
I'll tell you, the one in Boston, I was for Canada U.S. I was watching it on my computer. Back then, it wasn't like what it is now, like with streaming and everything. So it's skipping and it's falling behind. And I was with Mike Del Tufo, who, pretty much wanted to go out and drink. And then a professional wrestler who I thought was going to kill me because he wanted to go out and drink. And this guy's like 250 pounds of solid muscle. And they waited for me. I got to give them credit. They did.
Very nice. Very, very nice. All right, a couple of quick things here that I have, and then we can go on. Sorry, things are crazy here. Thanks for everybody for dealing with my time issues. As you know, my son's really not doing too well right now, but he's hanging in there, doing pretty good. So I'm going to try as best I can. I might get called away in a minute, but I'm going to do my best to get something to you guys today. I thought it was sad to hear that Zolly Zalapsky died, by the way. I don't know,
49 years old. I mean, that's
tough.
Yeah, pretty high draft pick. I remember him playing with Pittsburgh. I remember him playing with Hartford for a time. Thought that there were certain points early in his career where people thought he was going to be a really, really, really good defenseman. Zarley Zalapsky.
Zalapsky. Yeah, I remember him in Hartford. Yeah.
Oh yeah. He was one of the best names.
It skipped here. That's why I was curious.
I think he's last on the list. He's of the NHL. Like,
right.
If you go to the Hockey DB and you go A through Z, I think Zarley Zalapsky is
until somebody has the last name with an X.
No.
Sergei. What am I saying?
Sergei Zoltok might be the last.
Zoltok. Yeah, that's good.
And I forgot he actually came. He had one season with the Flyers.
He did.
Yeah.
And that was in 1999. I'm just looking him up on HockeyDB. 99-2000. He continued playing in some capacity in pro hockey for another 10 years after that.
Yeah.
Last season was in Lausanne, which is Swiss B League, in 2009-2010. That's incredible.
Yeah. No, you really do. I mean, there are some guys who just keep going,
who was the former Ranger that kept playing in the AHL, Mike? You remember?
Oh, God. Forward, defense?
Forward. Mike something? Oh,
Gardner?
Who?
No. One
year the Rangers picked up a couple free agents. One of them was from Montreal. This was back in the 90s.
The one that's
Mike Keane. He played forever.
Yeah.
The one that
and played a long time.
Yeah, Mike Keane played Mike Keane was riding the bus with the Manitoba Moose.
Yeah.
It was incredible.
The one that surprised me was a goaltender who played for Toronto and a few other NHL teams named Michael Tellquist. And
I remember him.
He just retired from the KHL. I mean, he had left. He had left from the NHL. He left the NHL in 2009, and he was playing in different KHL, and I think maybe he went to the Swiss League or the Finnish League, he just retired this year.
Well, I'll tell you who played forever, too, was Nicholas Sundstrom. He played forever.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. He only retired a couple of years ago.
He really did. Ilya Kovalchuk, a picture on Twitter came out today. I guess you guys don't know if you guys saw this or not, that he was at the first row of the Russian Olympic Committee meeting in Moscow. Try to figure out what's going to happen next with him.
Did he have a recorder out, or he was there as a fan?
He was at the meeting.
Was this the meeting where they banned those 7 or 8 women's Russian Olympic players for life?
It is.
Oh, jeez.
But yeah, this is the kind of guy that you definitely feel that want to do the Olympics more than anything in the world.
I guess if he's in the first seat, I guess that's pretty much a tell, right?
Yeah. Has there been any more? I mean, I've been trying to chase the rumors as much as I can the last couple of days. I haven't been able to check with this Russian.
It's a dead issue right now as far as.
There's been no talk at all, right? Either way.
No talk either way. So we're assuming
of what?
Right now, the unified people are still allowed because Putin said they could go.
Yeah, Putin's letting everybody go,
and that's it. That's
we're going to have a unified team. Then that's the question. Are we going to have it?
Right now, the unified team is a go. Yes.
But what's up in the air here is they've said you can go as a unified team. You can go no country, no flag, your team, whatever.
OAR.
But you have to prove you're clean.
Yes, well, that's the other part of it now that we haven't
interesting thing is what we don't know is what's the proof that says you're in or you're out or you're clean, you're not clean.
Well, apparently the KHL and the IIHF have been have been like with each other in terms of sharing information in terms
because
of.
you can trust the KHL paperwork.
No, of course not. But I'm just saying, if the IIHF is putting the stamp on here, Russ, I mean, I'm skeptical of anything.
Like, did you not watch like all the reports that said they were like what they were doing in the labs? Like, I
watched the documentary of the
incredible.
guy. I watched the documentary on Netflix of the guy.
It's unreal.
Yeah, the guy who came over and basically spilled everything on that program. It's not, and meldonium is just a tip of the iceberg. I mean, basically they were giving these people and some of them against their will. That's the thing that makes.
That's the thing. I never hold these players accountable because it is such a different dynamic there that they almost don't have a choice. Like they feel like their families will be threatened or everything else, so they just go along with it. I get it.
Yeah, Michael Tellquist played his last game in the NHL in 2009 with the Sabres. He played in Finland. He played in the KHL for 4 years, and he finished 3 years in a row with Djurgården and the SHL. So he played.
What round was he drafted in?
He was drafted in 2000, third-round pick of the Leafs.
Third round.
And he went AHL, NHL for about 5 seasons, then got traded to Phoenix and went to Buffalo. But he played as long in Europe as he did in the NHL or in the.
Count up one day. I should count up how many goalies got drafted ahead of Lundqvist in that draft. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And he just won his like 480th game, 81st game, which is now second to Brodeur for like one guy, one franchise.
Lundqvist got drafted. You remember there had been some Swedish failure type goalies.
Oh yeah.
And I think that the whole concept of goalies from Sweden was not a big deal. Like that was a problem.
I mean, Rockstrom was like he was on his own island. The Rangers kept ignoring him, and he kept bringing up.
Yeah, Tommy Sala. Now, I know that we need to touch on the Karlsson thing because when we had Kevin on yesterday. And we started, and I saw, with your column today, I think you were like taking the suggestions from some of the readers of potential deals. A couple of them I thought were realistic. A couple of them were like patently absurd.
Yeah, I want to go through them with you guys a little bit because some of them are fun. I put it out there, and people really I got over 100 responses. I mean, I got lots of there were 290 some comments in that blog, but 100 or so actual deals between that blog. People who tweeted me on Twitter. People who send emails. A lot of people send emails because they don't like the forums. As I found, like they just don't want to get ripped in the forums. So they send their ideas in email form. The one I chose, I want to see if you guys think I chose the right one here. We'll go through them pretty quick here. So the first one came from BoltzFan48. It was Tyler Johnson, Ryan Callahan, Slater Coco, right? Slater Cuckoo, right? Sorry, Cuckoo, right? It's funny. I've heard his name mentioned, but I've never actually
spelling. That's what it is.
It's the spelling. It's the spelling. That's where we are.
All right, a first rounder in 2018 and a second rounder in 2019. This is from Tampa. My feelings on that. Wait, what are your feelings on that one?
The problem. Go ahead. I was gonna say the problem is Ottawa would never accept the Callahan money.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I think any potential deal, sending Karlsson someplace else, if they're throwing back players. Tyler Johnson's in his mid-20s. He's a good player, but he's making over $5 million. Callahan's had significant injuries the last couple of years. He's over 30, I believe. There's no way. There's no way in hell that Ottawa would be. They would be trading for young assets and not guys who are established. There's no way they would be doing that.
Because the two things I've heard that they would need, and I don't think they're going to trade him, but the two things they would definitely need are pretty obvious. You need an NHL player that's playing now that's a star, at some kind of level. Like your top 6 forward, top 4 defenseman.
Yep.
Playing now is a guarantee. They don't have to worry about. I mean, Tyler Johnson is right on the edge of that. You definitely need a first-round pick. So there's a first-round pick in this. And you need a defenseman of some kind who is probably good enough to come in and help, because they're getting rid of Karlsson is a huge deal.
Yeah.
Next one was sorry, just shoved some in my mouth.
Sorry.
Karlsson to Carolina. This is from Bingo, exclamation point.
Okay.
Karlsson to Carolina for Justin Falk, Victor Rask, Jake Bean, and a 2018 second-round pick.
I think that's a lot to offer, and I think that would
realistic.
give Ottawa pause to think. It would.
That's realistic.
Yep.
Here's the thing with this. Like, that's a fair offer. I mean, it's something you can start working on, right? Like,
Yeah.
there's a base there that you can go in a lot of directions from, but there's a foundation. The interesting thing is if Ottawa takes this scorched approach and says, well, not only are you going, Karlsson, Stone, you're gone too, and there's a few other guys, they have to take some salary back to be cap compliant too. Like, Melnick can't just there's a cost to being an owner in the NHL, and the cost is going to be about $60 million of salary a year to players. You can't.
And I've heard as well, Peter, that they actually, one of the things that I heard would happen if this happened is they would try to get somebody to take Bobby Ryan along with him, which is like, that's really cutting money out. Now you're talking about like, how's anyone going to be able to afford that? You know, it would have to be somebody who could ship Bobby Ryan away someplace else. It would have to be, you know, that kind of. And I think the salary cap area is showing us more like what we saw with Nashville and Ottawa.
Yeah. Okay. Bobby Ryan is under contract for another 4 years at $7.25 million. Yeah. Right. Dream the impossible dream.
Like, if Melnick had problems with this, like if he knew this was coming, why did he trade for Phaneuf 2 years ago?
Because it was,
you never think this is coming. I think you're in denial of this. I think.
Well, no. I can explain that.
Just from a salary thing, not the player, just the salary.
No. I can explain for a salary thing, because at the time they made that deal, Greening, Mihalik, Jared Cowan, all in total made more than Phaneuf. They made over $9 million, and they each had another year left on the contract. Okay. So Toronto, in the place that they were in right now, right then when they were tanking to be last place, they bought out Cowan, they buried Mihalik and Greening, and they ate the money, and you know, and they in the long run, like at now, they're all gone. And Phaneuf's contract is 4 more years after this year, I believe. So that's the reason why they took the short term and the increased hit. But Peter, and I was saying this yesterday, every deal that friggin' organization has made over the last couple of years has a financial component to it. The Brassard deal with Zibanejad was an RFA. Brassard was a front-loaded deal, so he was paid most of his money. The deal that they made, the Duchesne deal, pushed the dilemma down the road another year, and they didn't have to pay tourists.
I mean, it's better than making no deals at all. At least they're getting some in return. Right.
Exactly, and now
they're not building a team.
No,
they're
managing. They're managing cash flow.
Well, my thing with the Carolina deal, like moving forward, I think it's a good deal, but I think you can't make that a second round pick. I think it's got to be a first round pick.
Yeah, it has to be a first.
And Russ is we're gonna find out that Derek Jeter's part of the Ottawa Center ownership group. Okay.
The next came out Willage, who said Karlsson to Pittsburgh, and there were a couple people that did this deal, but he was the one who did the first. So I went with it. Letang, Sheary, and a first round pick.
No way.
Not enough.
Yeah, and I just Letang's injuries prone way too much to make that deal.
Sheary wouldn't touch Letang.
Okay, I'll give you a realistic Pittsburgh deal. It would be Oli Mata, Daniel Sprong, Tristan Jarry, and a number 1.
Yeah, someone had something like that.
It'd be something like that, but I think actually
I don't think that's enough either.
I don't even think that's enough. It would have to be better than Mata.
They don't have the defenseman to make this deal. I mean,
no, they don't.
I mean, Letang's our best defenseman, and he's injured prone, so you can't really make that.
Yeah, and I'll say this because when we talked to Kevin on air yesterday, and I offered this as a suggestion. He thought this was a real, not that Ottawa would ever trade Karlsson to Toronto, but Toronto has the package that they could pull off the deal, and they have the money to re-sign him. A deal like William Nylander, Timothy Liljegren, and a first-round pick, I think would probably be something
that's definitely of interest. I was going to say with Pittsburgh,
would you throw in capital?
Pittsburgh would probably have to put in, instead of Mata, get him Ian Cole, because they have Shabbat, right? Shabbat could take the Karlsson spot on the team, and then give him 2 firsts, because that's probably what you're going to have to.
But here's the question: is this all pie in the sky, or is this realistic? Because I don't think it's realistic in terms of this year, in terms of this deadline. But I think we're going to be talking about this, Ek, when it comes to the draft time, because
like you said, this is Ottawa, and
at the draft we're going to hear about it. Whether it happens or not will depend on the deals that are offered.
Now
we will be walking around Dealey Plaza when this deal's pulled off.
They know that if they know that the cap is up to $80 million at the draft, that will help this deal.
Oh yeah, then a lot of teams came out.
Let me ask you. Let me throw one out there, and it's a wild ass thing, and it's more the concept of would you even consider going down this road? Karlsson for Draisaitl.
Okay, so that's the next one. Very good, nice transition. Boyle had 1989. Hicks 76 had sort of the same deal, and that was Draisaitl, Clefboom, and a conditional first if they sign Karlsson.
That's way too much.
Wow.
That is too much.
That's too much.
Hicks 76 threw in Stone, Karlsson, and Stone, which I thought was more realistic, but still a lot.
No, what you'd have to probably give them is you'd have to give them Draisaitl, Nurse, and a conditional first. That's what you'd have to give them.
What if you gave them Draisaitl, a first, and you got to throw in some other salary somehow, but you take Bobby Ryan with him?
Yeah.
See, Bobby Ryan is a glass man. He breaks.
I'm not saying
he's saying.
I'm just saying
salary relief.
Yeah.
But then I think Ottawa is just too compromised on the scoring end. Then.
Yeah. See, the thing is, I think Ottawa's in the financial situation. And I was just joking about Derek Jeter, but they're similar in a financial situation to what the Miami Marlins are, where they're going to get pennies on the dollar.
They do better than that.
No. I'm not talking about before. I'm talking about now. And I mean, basically, the way they're acting, Russ, it's like, okay, all of a sudden they've asked for no trade lists for all their players, and there's talk about Hoffman and Stone and CC.
Yeah.
I mean, these are all valuable players. And honestly, when you're in a position like that and all these players are out there, you know how NHL general managers are. They're vultures. They're going to say, okay,
throw you a dumbbell, not a life preserver.
Right, exactly. Oh, you want to trade Mike Hoffman? Here, I'll give you, second round pick and a bag of pucks.
But it also creates a bidding war.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And the way they did this was interesting because you by putting them all out at the same, by just saying, okay, we just asked everybody for it, which is what they did.
Mm-hmm.
They do avoid some of the controversy with Karlsson, which is what they've tried to do. That's how they tried to play it, right? They tried to say, okay, we asked everybody for that, which is what we always do. But most NHL teams don't always do that. I mean, that's not something that's normal at all.
Right.
Not something. I mean, you don't go to every possible player you could trade and ask them for the conditions of their no trade clause like that. That is a really bad thing to do. It really is. It sends a bad signal throughout the room and throughout the team. If you do that, I mean, it's not smart. And I think that whole idea of trying to, I really do think it was done to lessen the impact on asking Karlsson. And I think that was kind of stupid. But
the funny thing is that you've got two teams in the same division playing tonight in Buffalo that in a similar position in the standings and in a similar position in terms of being at a crossroads where Jason Botterill has come out and said, or at least the rumors are out there, that anybody not named Jack Eichel he'll listen to for a trade. That doesn't mean it's going to happen before the deadline, but you're potentially going to see them take offers for guys like Ristolainen. Sure. I'm sure they're going to trade Kane before the deadline. Right. and then anybody who's a UFA. But then you're talking about guys who were thought to be foundation pieces like Ristolainen, maybe like Ryan O'Reilly, in the summer being shipped out or shopped and possibly be shipped out. And that's going to hurt Ottawa too, because if there's another team in a similar situation, so they can play them off against each other. They can actually, other teams can say, well, I'm going to get this guy for less from Buffalo, so you better lower your price. Otherwise, you're not going to get the return.
Why is Buffalo trading Ristolainen? What's the end game on this?
I think the end game, Russ, is the fact that they've had Ristolainen for a number of years. Apparently, they don't. If the indication is, I personally, if I'm a team looking for a top 2, top 3 defenseman on their roster, I'm going after Ristolainen any chance I get.
I think that's why his name's out there. I think sometimes you have to leave some names out there to get.
Yeah, he's 23 years old. The problem is if the Sabres do trade him, right?
Yeah.
They'll never get another defenseman of that quality for another 5 years in the draft.
Well, unless they make
they get the #1 pick this year.
Or right, true. Or unless there's another team out there like the Winnipeg Jets who have another defenseman out there who might be, would there be
But here's the thing. Even Trouba doesn't have the offensive ability that Ristolainen does. He does not. He has offensive ability and he's got a good shot, but it's not to the level of Ristolainen. It's not.
Right. Here's the thing. Here's the thing about this. Okay, there's no Botterill. Remember, he grew up in the Pittsburgh organization, and he spent some time with Rutherford, right? Rutherford has done this for as long as I've been doing Hockey Rumors. I shouldn't maybe be saying this, but maybe I will just. There's something he does, and he will do it every year. He will say this. I've heard him say this before with Carolina, and even with Pittsburgh. Sometimes on or off the record.
Right.
Everybody's available except, except for Crosby and Malkin. And the reason that this play is played is if he says everybody's available except for, Ristolainen and Eichel, then no one calls him, right? So the idea is you want to make people still call you. Maybe, someone calls, I'd like Ristolainen. He's like, well, I need 3 first-round draft picks. And then they're like, okay, but I would like to talk to you about this, and this is a lot of this is bait and switch type technique.
Yes, but one thing that Rutherford also does is he makes big deals.
He does. And Botterill will too, I think.
He made the Kessel deal, and I think, remember, Botterill's coming in. He's got carte blanche. He wouldn't have gotten this job if he didn't talk to the Pagulas and say, okay, well, I'll give this, say, for example, I'll give this a year and see how this team, does. And if they do great, wonderful. We just keep going. And if they do badly, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to bring in players who I think will fit what we're trying to do a lot better. He did it on a low level, bringing in a guy like Scott Wilson, who won a Stanley Cup with him in Pittsburgh. They got him from Detroit for a low round draft pick. He's going to bring in players that fit what they want to do. And right now, maybe guys like Ristolainen and Kane and Sam Reinhart and whoever don't fit what they want to do. I mean, that's to be determined.
And I think and I know, and one of the reasons he does deals is it also goes back to what I said, is he gets talking with people. I personally don't think that Ristolainen, or I'm sorry, I call it Ristolainen. Sorry. We're up in a different era, right? Reijo Ristolainen.
Yeah, Ristolainen, yeah.
This is Ristolainen, and no, I don't think he's available. I don't think he is. I would bet money that he's not, and that's why I say like 3 draft picks or 3 first-round draft picks, something like that. But
how long is Antipin?
Rutherford at times would say that Letang was available, or wouldn't keep him off his list in the same way to try to get people. And this is how he ends up making the Kessel trade, because he has conversations with general managers.
Right.
They talk about things. They move things along.
Is Antipin a 2-year deal, or is he just a 1-year deal?
I think it was a 2-year deal, but I'm
2-year deal. So I think Antipin will get dealt.
Well, I mean, I don't know if there's any. Actually, Russ, he's a 1-year. He's a
1-year deal. So
yeah.
He will get dealt. He'll get dealt.
Got a couple more little deals for you here with them, and then we can move on from this.
Yep.
Karlsson thing. Okay. A couple people did say things like you said, Mike, that the chance of them Ottawa trading Karlsson to the Leafs is like pretty small, which would make sense in any condition. Obviously.
But they have.
Here's Austin Matthews. They're like, here, take Karlsson.
Yeah.
But that's not going to happen. So.
Here's the response from Toronto fans.
Right. Yeah. But I do think, and one person did say that if it's going to get done, it would take Marner, and I do agree with that. I do. Yeah. I think that it would take Marner to get it done, and let's say this: if it's a choice, I mean, obviously if there was a trade, it was Brian Murray who was the GM. I don't know if Dorian was in the organization at that point, but these teams did make the Phaneuf deal less than a couple years ago, so there is a connection there. And you always hesitate when it's a division rival, but if the Leafs were trading for Karlsson, and that it's going to be one of the young forwards, they would give up Nylander over Marner. They would not want to trade Marner.
Right, yeah. But Eck has a good point. They might hold him up for Marner, and then they would have to make that decision, which, again, for the Leafs, they're not going to have a shot at a defenseman like Karlsson for a lot of years because there's nobody in their system like him. And
nobody like him, really. So
they would be waiting for another team to get into a situation like Ottawa where they've got on the load. So then you wait around. So do you take this opportunity and put your best foot forward, or do you wait for the next one?
Well, Peter, that's why
the other thing is even if this is to happen this year, are they going to do it with are they going to let Lamoriello do that? He doesn't have a deal next year.
Well, and I
think the answer is yes.
I just wrote about this today because Elliot Friedman reported yesterday in his 31 Thoughts that Brendan Shanahan is rumored to be looking to bring back the boys. To re-sign Lamoriello for at least a year, maybe two. Bring back Dubas, bring back Hunter, all in their current positions. He wants to keep it for at least another season. And the reason being is that the Leafs next summer, you've got Nylander, Marner, Matthews, all eligible to sign new deals. You've got Van Riemsdyk, Komarov, Bozak, all expiring on and becoming UFAs. And Lamoriello, some people will criticize. I think he's done a great job in Toronto over the last 2 years getting Kadri, Riley, Brown, Hyman, Zaitsev, Frederik Anderson, all on what I think are below market value contracts, and I think that's the reason Shanahan wants them around, because he can get these guys locked up for better deals.
By the way, I usually have 32 thoughts a week, and I never get any credit for it. I just want to say,
I never got the 30 thoughts, or else I would post the same kind of article. The reality is, Lou Lamoriello got players to stay in New Jersey for less money for years, and that was a harder sell, I think, than this is in some ways. So this is going to be, I think that young players especially love Lou Lamoriello, and there's no question that that's going to be, it behooves. And I don't think
they love the track record and they trust that.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know why Lou would want to go. Like, honestly, this is. I
don't think he wants to go. I think.
I think he'll negotiate because he'll.
I mean, Lou doesn't strike me as the shuffleboard type, so I think he's going to hang around.
But the only reason I can see Lou,
he will get paid. Lou will get paid.
The only reason I can see Lou wanting to go is that while he's had success in Toronto, he just doesn't want to be in Toronto and dealing with what Toronto is.
Right. He likes the challenge. He won't shy away from that.
No, I don't think it's about the challenge rush. I think it's just like I've had enough of what comes with being in this city with hockey.
Yeah, no, he doesn't care about that.
Honestly, Peter, it's not like he's like on the radio constantly. They do the rounds with him, say, once a month. Everything is very controlled. They have a media staff that really handles things well, and they control the message, and so I think Lou, you would think that he'd be pulled in so many different directions in Toronto, and it's not even the case whatsoever. Okay. But I think
Shanahan, they've got Babcock there, and that's like
Right, and honestly, I think next summer, and this will be exciting for the website. I think next summer is going to be really big because not only because the free agent class is not that great, but the 2019 class is so good, and teams like Arizona, like Ottawa with Karlsson right now, I think Doughty's probably leaning towards staying in LA, but you never know. But there are so many options out there with guys going into the last year of their contracts, that teams out there that have cap room and that are trying to make that last piece. Even Winnipeg with Trouba, I don't know if he wants to sign a long-term deal there. That puts Cheveldayoff in a position where, okay, I've got this guy who's 2 years away from being a UFA. I can get a lot for him. And there's so much out there in terms of potential movement that I think it's going to be an exciting off season.
No, it sure will. A couple more last little picked here. Karlsson, our A. Richardson 22 had Karlsson going to the Flyers, and this was the deal. Gossis Pierre Simmons, the 2017 first round draft pick, and the 2017 first round pick that they got from St. Louis for Braden Shen.
Expo would never do it.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Never, ever do that kind of thing.
Calgary, Flaming Irishman.
Let's just say this: if Philadelphia and Ottawa, if they're talking Karlsson, the first name coming out of their mouth is probably Provorov.
Yeah.
And that's when Ron Hextall hangs up the phone.
Right.
Yeah. Flaming Irishman. Calgary, Dougie Hamilton, Sam Bennett, Dylan Dube, and
Dylan Dubé,
sorry, 2019 third round pick.
It's not enough. I'll tell you why it's not enough. Dougie Hamilton is a good offensive defenseman. He's not great in his own end. Dubé is a really high-end talent, but I don't think he's going to be a superstar in the NHL.
And right
when
now,
you break down this deal, Bennett's struggling too.
Yeah. Right now, Sam Bennett is not fulfilling.
That's unloading a problem.
To Chicago, Erik Karlsson and Mike Condon. Throw Mike Condon into this deal. The Senators will receive
Anton Forsberg,
Anisimov, Hartman, Forsling, Corey Crawford, and a conditional 2,000 for 2,000.
Not even close to being enough.
No, it's not enough.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask this.
Yeah.
Winnipeg, Peter.
Yeah.
Karlsson, Trouba, and Ehlers.
Winnipeg won't spend the money. They'd have to trade Bufflin to balance it.
Yeah.
I don't think they'd want to give up on Ehlers. Or not. It's not giving up on him, but
give him.
You'd have to maybe send them Myers, and not the Myers is anything, but it just takes up too much room.
Yeah, but they're not going to go over their self-imposed cap, are they, Peter? I mean,
They have a self-imposed cap until they decide they don't. Remember, they're the richest owner in the league. He can buy the league and still have money left over to buy a few more Group of 7 paintings for his dad's estate. That's how much money he has. And that's the thing.
So you think this would make them open up the coffers?
I think they. I mean, if Winnipeg's not on the list, so there's the first hurdle. Okay. If he's not on the 10 team, don't send me their list. They should absolutely be talking, because there's a couple other players in the organization down that could, prospect wise, it could be interesting.
Yeah.
They could afford to give up a draft pick or two in terms of like first round or second round picks this year, next year.
Yeah.
And they have
they have the players. There's no question they have the players. Peter, you have to sell Erik Karlsson like you're the Winnipeg Travel Bureau.
The Chamber of Commerce.
Ehlers likes it here.
You can
so does Enstrom. What's your problem,
Russ, you could say it's a similar climate to Sweden.
It is.
Yeah. We have a great open air spa called Thermia that all the Jets hang out with on their vacation days.
There you go.
Well, see, and this is the thing that complicates a Karlsson trade in the offseason. One, it's got to be a place he wants to go to. Two, the team that he gets traded to has to be convinced or has to be fairly certain that they're going to be able to re-sign him. Otherwise, they're not going to give up a ton of young assets. They're not going to do that for a one-year rental. So it's going to have to be basically in concert with, okay, let's do the deal. Now let's talk contract. It's going to have to be one. You'll probably see if it actually happens, you'll see the Karlsson deal, and then the next day you'll see the Karlsson extension, because otherwise the team won't do it.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a good
Has to be an extension involved. Well, the final one that I actually like the best, which is hard to say. I mean, these are all hard to determine which is the best, but I kind of like this one, was the St. Louis, which was Peter Angelo.
Who's hurt?
He's hurt right now, but
no, that's fine. Yeah.
Costin or Costin? It's Costin?
Costin.
Thompson, and a conditional first if Karlsson was signed, which he would be. So I would say that. So it's basically Peter Angelo, Costin, Thompson, and a first-round draft pick from the Blues.
I don't think the Blues would do it because, okay,
I don't think the Blues would do that.
You're getting a linchpin franchise defenseman for a linchpin franchise defenseman.
Yeah, that's true, but I think that, I mean, Karlsson is the best.
I'm not saying.
I don't think Erik Karlsson gives them a Stanley Cup. I think they would look at that. Armstrong is one of the best drafting teams out there, and I think he would look at this and say, yeah, we're giving up on some of these young assets, and it doesn't. I don't think it gives us a cup.
The value there, Eck, is when Anaheim put Niedermeyer and Pronger together. You had two ridiculous number ones, and if there was a deal,
I think Parayko's the better defenseman. I think Parayko and Karlsson, that's two ridiculous number ones right there.
I don't think Parayko is better than Peter Angelo. I think Peter Angelo is going to.
He's not better than Peter Angelo, but he's different than Peter Angelo.
Yeah, they're different players. That's the thing. But I mean, think about that. A combination of Karlsson, Parayko, or a Karlsson, Peter Angelo, it is Niedermeyer, Pronger all over again. You have one on the ice for 30 minutes, and you have the other on the ice for 30 minutes, and off you go. And have fun with that, guys, because that's what it's going to be.
But then you still are putting all the eggs in the Jake Allen basket, which again, after making that trade, you won't be able to go out and trade for a goalie because you're not going to have enough.
And it would have to be like the situation in St. Louis where Peter Angelo and Parayko are both locked up on long-term deals. Karlsson's going to make $11.5 million on his new deal. There's no way it's going to work if he gets traded to a Chicago who has Kane and Taves, or gets traded to an LA who's got Doughty, who's going to make that big money. There has to be cost certainty on that team before they can add a piece that they're going to have to spend $11 million on. So a team is going to have to be able to afford to spend on Karlsson, because Karlsson's in a situation right now where the team can't spend around him. So he's not going to go to another situation where he's afraid that the team won't spend after they sign him.
Well, let's think about this for a minute. I think they have some sticker shock, because if you remember, I told you I didn't like the Peter Stastny deal, the money he's making. And honestly, what has he really done for St. Louis? He's 46 points, 49 points, 40 points. He's got 23 this year. He might get back to the 49. He's never getting to the 60 or more points ever.
They were lucky that they got him on a shorter term deal. He took, I think it was 4 years at 4 years at 7.5, or at 7, and it's up this year. So
I know, but I'm just saying, that's to pay Karlsson the big money. They already thought when they brought over Stastny, boy, this guy's gonna bring us to the cup, and he didn't.
He didn't. Yeah.
Right.
Maybe this year it will. I don't know.
It's just a thing to.
But that's a good team to do it. I think the only component there is, like I said, if they were to do it, and then let's say this year they came up short and they determined that it is Jake Allen, well, now you've got less assets to trade for that franchise goalie, because you don't have anybody in your system that they trust. I mean, I like Binnington, we all do, but they're not using them. So.
Yeah, that's really true, and I don't know why. And he's part of that. It's part of one of the deals that someone put in there too. I thought was pretty good. Speaking of franchise goalies, Brian McClellan of the Capitals is over in Moscow to talk to Ilya Samsonov's camp right now.
Yeah,
his contract with Magnitogorsk just ends on April 30th.
Yeah. Well, I think the time was coming. I mean, we talked about it last year, and I remember saying to you that Samsonov said he would come over and play in the AHL for a year, and Ovechkin was sort of leading the path for that. If you remember, he was talking to him, and Holtby getting pulled last night sort of does play into that, where this could be the goalie that they're looking for. Even though Holtby had his moments, he's still a really good goalie, but they might go in the Samsonov direction. They might.
Well, I mean, first of all, and this is probably less of a factor, but Grubauer is an RFA next year, so at the end of this season, so they could probably offer Samsonov the backup job.
But that's not the Capital style. They'll want him to play like every day in the AHL. I think.
and that's very possible. But Holtby is only under contract for 2 more years.
Right.
So they want to get him
coming year for him.
Yeah, they want to get him over here now, and maybe if he's the real deal, and we want to see him over here. But from all indications, he's a very good
everywhere
prospect.
I've seen him, World Juniors last year, every other time, he's been great.
Yeah, so if he is the real deal and he proves it after playing a year in the AHL, then all of a sudden here you got it's basically the Tampa Bay situation all over again. A young Russian goaltender, extremely athletic, extremely cheap on an entry-level deal, and a guy who's making 6.1 in Holtby. All of a sudden Holtby, for all these teams are looking for that elusive number 1. That's a plum for McClellan to play down the road. In terms of grade.
Yeah, you don't think you get something from Edmonton for Holtby?
I think you get a lot for him, yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. Matt Murray has been activated off of IR, so that's good news for Penguins fans.
Hey, just so you know, I didn't know this. Because the Blues had that weird situation with the Wolves, right? Remember I said it was a kind of a weird thing to have that shared affiliation because it's bad for goaltending? They ended up shipping Binnington to Providence. I didn't realize that. They loaned him to Providence.
It's such a weird situation, Russ, because the Wolves, I mean, it's St. Louis and Vegas, and when all the injuries in Vegas happened, they pulled goalies in from other organizations. Kazimir Kaskasuo, who's a Leaf prospect, is playing in Chicago. Michael Leighton was playing there, and now Michael Leighton, I think, got called up. So,
speaking of players,
Binnington's been loaned to Providence. Yeah.
Speaking of players, you can't believe we're still playing in the NHL. Michael Leighton is one of them to me.
He is, yes.
Yeah.
I mean, he's definitely he's not that old either, actually. Oddly enough.
before we wrap it up, I just got to say tonight, Leafs versus Flyers, and it's probably a little disappointing for some of the people in Philadelphia because Austin Matthews, he made the trip, but he didn't practice he didn't participate in the morning skate this morning. He's not going to play, and Babcock essentially saying he's day-to-day, which for him, he says day-to-day means 10 days. So that probably means they play 3 games on the road this week. That probably means that Matthews will not play in any of them. They're being extremely careful.
So who's going to take his place in the lineup?
Marlowe's going to move to the middle, and they're going to move Nylander down on the line with Kadri, and they're playing Josh Levo on the 4th line. So basically the same lineup they used against Edmonton on Sunday.
There we go. I'll let you go, Peter. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yep, thanks,
Peter. My pleasure, guys. We'll talk soon.
I do want to wish everybody out there who cares a happy Hanukkah. Actually, somebody who did wish everybody a happy Hanukkah was Mr. T, and then I told him thank you, and he liked my tweet. Like that makes my lifetime right there.
Mr. T liked your tweet.
Mr. T liked my tweet.
That's hard to say 10 times fast.
Did Mrs. Moore wish you a happy Hanukkah too?
Yeah, how far are we from Exicles? Anyway, all right. Okay, so that's about all I got today, guys.
Okay.
Like when I said, Matt Murray's back. Flyers Leafs, always a fun game tonight.
Oh, and actually, there is one other thing.
Flyers, by the way. So I would say it's always a fun game, but the Leafs have really owned the Flyers in Philadelphia for.
This is going to be an extremely hard game for the Flyers, and if this is a game where Dave Haxtell rests the young guys in the 3rd period and they don't win, that's when I say it's going the wrong way, because for these short-term wins, I don't like it. But we'll see, because I would want my best young guys to match up against their best young guys and just see what happens, because to me that's the future. The Ducks did call up somebody from the AHL, so that does mean Corey Perry's going to be out for some time. He went to the hospital yesterday. After going to the hospital, we've heard nothing. Zero.
Yeah. And this is an organization that apparently, like, within the next couple of weeks, they're going to get Getzlaf back and Kessler.
I think he's back now, isn't he?
Is he? Okay, I missed it if he is. But I know it was Kessler who was going to be back before Christmas.
Yeah.
But if they lose Perry after waiting all this time to get it, it's just bad luck. I mean, that organization is having such terrible luck with injuries.
They are. They're really having a rough year, and you're still not far out of it, though.
They're not.
I mean, the Western Conference is crazy. You can check my buyers and sellers, which we can get to at some point later in the week. It's the first time I've ever done buyers and sellers where only one team was a seller at a conference.
Oh, and Ek, you pretty much jinxed Carson Wentz, because you said this is like the first year you've watched football and you've liked football.
And he's a fan of Hockey Buzz, and he tears his ACL.
Yeah.
Philly, thanks, Russ. I appreciate it. That would be really nice. That's the one thing you don't want to be blamed about in this town. Like, you'd be better off, taking out the mayor than you are saying.
You would be.
That's something that hurt Carson Wentz. That's really not a good thing.
Ah, boy.
Anyway, that is really a shame. He's having a hell of a year.
It is a shame. It is.
Well, he'll get a chance to look at Hockey Buzz a lot more often when he's in the hospital.
We'll get him on here. That'll be fun. All right, guys. Remember, without the buzz, it is just hockey. We will talk to you tomorrow.